Hello, my name is Amanda Elliott, and I serve as the Redevelopment Program Manager for the town of Gilbert. And I also serve as the liaison to the Heritage District. And today we are here to talk about the Heritage District Design Guideline update. The first question we usually get about design guidelines is, what does that mean? What are they? Design guidelines are a set of recommendations towards good practice in design. It ultimately is the way our downtown looks and feels, both from an architectural standpoint, but also from that pedestrian experience as well. We have a current set of design guidelines that were created in 2010. And if you've been to the Heritage District, you understand how exceptional of a foundation those design guidelines have been in regards to the architecture and the built environment that is today. And in 2018, the council adopted a new redevelopment plan. A redevelopment plan acts as a roadmap to help guide development over the next 10 years. And it also acts as a master plan for any town owned properties. So it really helps us understand what the Heritage District will be like in 10 years. But we want to make sure that what is reflected in the redevelopment plan is also reflected in a new set of design guidelines. And there were some additional goals we wanted to achieve. We held a technical committee meeting, meaning that we met with all individuals um, or all departments, pardon me, across the town and asked them to review the 2008 design guidelines and share any challenges they may have had in answering questions so that it ultimately becomes easier to understand the design guidelines and what we're trying to achieve. We also wanted it to be easy to navigate, whether you're a developer or a resident. We wanted you to be able to find what you needed quickly and efficiently. We did that by using more imagery to demonstrate what we're trying to achieve and by taking the text and making it more bulleted. We also wanted the new design guidelines to be future focused, focus on that evolution of the downtown from the redevelopment plan, and also focus on new technologies that are emerging in downtown environments, and ultimately helping us become that city of the future. Town staff looked at 30 or so sets of design guidelines from across the United States and really utilize ones like Bethesda or Watertown, Massachusetts, in order to help determine how to best put that imagery and text into place. And you'll see this a little bit later in this presentation. But I think it's important to note how we came to the designs for the various areas in the design guidelines. Through the redevelopment plan, we did about 5 years of public outreach. We engaged everyone from residents and property owners, landowners, developers, merchants, council, visitors of the Heritage District, our brokers, chambers, tourism, educational partners, religious organizations, and town experts, staff from across the departments. And we did this in all of the modes that are listed on the left of this screen. So um, we really did a lot of in-person engagement, online engagement, held various workshops, and we utilize all of this input that is cataloged in the appendix of the redevelopment plan to help us truly form the look and the feel that we're trying to project throughout the Heritage District Design Guidelines update. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and bring up the document. The Heritage District Design Guidelines are in a facing page view, as you can see here. There are 5 sections: an introduction, blend, which focuses on commercial development projects, congregate, which focuses on public space projects, dwell, which focuses on residential development projects, and create, which is the appendix. We're going to go ahead and walk through these sections. So the introduction provides a purpose for the document and objectives, and then talks about how to use the design guidelines. So if you are a commercial developer, you can come in here and follow these instructions. Or if you are a resident and you are looking to modify your home, this section here will tell you how to do that. Each section has the same features in it, and we'll go through those, but this is the blend section. So this is our streets. How do our streets look and feel? How do they interact with buildings and with the pedestrians? Each section has an introduction on the left-hand page and a map on the right page. So if I'm a developer or if I'm a resident, I would look on this page and then find the associated street that matches the area that I am working on. We'll go through each of the sections, but I just wanted to note that in each section, you will see a description, an experience, a map just to help orient individuals who are reading it, the document. You'll find the street cross section. So this tells town how much sidewalk, how much space for parking, for the street. All of that information for trees and such are all listed on the cross section. And then you'll also see that there are design guidelines on the left page and an axonometric on the right, which highlights certain features. Within the design guidelines, there are 4 areas. Environment, so this is the pedestrian environment. How does the pedestrian feel from the street? Move refers to circulation. Service refers to things like trash and mechanical equipment that's incorporated into buildings. And the massing is both vertical massing, so the height, as well as horizontal massing, so the facades of buildings. So I'm going to go back to the beginning of historic. Historic is Gilbert Road, which runs north-south from Juniper, just past Elliott in the boundaries of the Heritage District. This is really meant to be the historic area of Gilbert. We wanted to ensure that that feeling of historic Gilbert was incorporated throughout the design guidelines, but most importantly, that that early turn of the century Main Street is continued along Gilbert Road here. And so with that, you'll see things like patios along the street. You'll see the historic architecture. We will have awnings, canopies, or trees to shade pedestrians as they are walking along the sidewalk. There is no standing, stopping, parking on Gilbert Road, and that will remain in place. Limited bus stops, no visible surface parking. Trash services would be accessed from the alleyways, and there we're because this is really meant to be more turn of the century Main Street architecture, we are saying that 2 to 3 stories are preferred along the street. However, it is important to note that today the height that is allowed in the Heritage District is 55 feet. A 3-story building is about 36 feet. So just to give you a little bit of context there, but we are encouraging that zero lot line design, meaning that the buildings are front and forward to the street, um, as opposed to set back with large landscape before you enter the building. Active street are the areas highlighted in yellow. They are predominantly the areas located east of Gilbert Road that are currently zoned for multifamily. These areas are meant to be a mix, really primarily residential, but also a mix of potentially some home office or some neighborhood type retail, like you could imagine your neighborhood coffee shop on this street, or a convenience store type product, anything that a florist, for example, those type of things that support residential. But this is really meant to be a walkable area. So the area that has large tree canopies is very beautiful, with historic light poles that are throughout Gilbert, potted plants and hanging baskets, that cafe furniture um, in front of your neighborhood coffee shop or bakery, wide sidewalks. And then for the residential component, this is an area where you would have balconies or stoops facing the street. And these areas would be the 2 to 4 story preferred. So again, these are allowed to be up to 55 feet. This area would also have flexible loading zones. So what that means is the area could have an area that's zoned where your FedEx driver, your Amazon Prime driver could pull up and park temporarily to run in packages at certain times of day. It could become a pedestrian loading zone for rideshare at another time of day and could provide to be on-street parking at other times of day. Connect streets are here in green on the map. They are meant to provide low speed ventilation of vehicular traffic. So they also are welcoming kind of a mixed use environment, meaning you can have. We've kind of said this is an area where you'd have things like we have education uses and entertainment. Certainly, in the case of Vaughan, we identified this as a retail shopping street, but we all want these to interface with the streetscape. It's important to note that in the redevelopment plan, this street was shown with landscape islands with the trees, but because we wanted to provide more ventilation of the streets from a traffic perspective and being able to move traffic in and out of the district, we removed those landscape islands, and you can see that the trees are now set here within the sidewalk area. The buildings in this area, the trash would be also consolidated within alleyways. And we would imagine this to have flexible lanes again to ebb and flow for traffic. So that kind of lane that could be used as dedicated on-street parking at certain hours, commercial loading zones at other hours, that type of movement, and then the ability to open up the lane completely if we want to move traffic through there. I think it's just important to note that this is really an energized area. Even though we're ventilating traffic, we really want to have the pedestrian be the focus of what we're doing here in the Heritage District. Festival streets are highlighted in blue. The most notable festival street you probably would see today is on the bottom of this right page. That is Hearn Way and has the unique overhead lighting. But these are meant to be low speed streets with wide sidewalks. Like the Hearn Way, they'd be a curbless environment. And we're really trying to activate these areas with activity, whether it be shopping or events. So you'll note that there is a festival street up on the 9-acre site that is currently undeveloped, nearest the Powerline Trail, just north of that, and just west of Gilbert. And then another one right around the center of the district in what we're calling our living room plaza, which we will talk about a little bit later. But this street is really meant to be a fun type of a street, one where you could have banners or shade sails floating above the street, unique lighting, colorful and artistic storefronts and signage. Entertainment uses encouraged. We didn't encourage mobile retailers to pull up along these streets and be able to rent space to vend different products. We would want any buildings that surround these streets to have their balconies facing the streets again to engage. We would have dedicated curbside rideshare parking, and certainly we would have required parking access from alleyways. So the parking would not necessarily be on this street. Local streets are in the residential neighborhoods, single family residential neighborhoods, and they're not intended for through traffic. They're really meant to enhance the quality of life for the residents who live, in this case, in Lacey Track, which is at the northwest corner of Gilbert and Elliott, and in Greenhaw, which is at the northeast corner of Gilbert and Elliott. These are really meant to be your iconic streets with the historical architecture tied to the period in which these neighborhoods were originally developed. So you can imagine front yards, courtyards, stoops, balconies, all facing this street with recessed attached or recessed detached garages. Those could also be accessed from the alleyway. We would imagine this area just to be one that's walkable with street trees and wide sidewalks, that tree lawn, just ultimately kind of your iconic Americana uh, neighborhood. Flex alleys are the commercial alleyways located in the Heritage District. So we wanted to look at all of the buildings as a 360-degree architecture. So no aspect of the building is forgotten. So the alleyways behind would be meant to be for dedicated refuse collection, so your garbage collection, and also for deliveries at certain times of day. And then opening up really to serve as pedestrian thoroughfares and potentially secondary entrances at other times of day. There really wouldn't be any parking allowed in here. And because we want this to be a walkable environment, it would have pedestrian lighting. It would also have unique paving that designates it as a alleyway. And some of the things that we've talked about incorporating are things like art wraps. So adding art onto service doors that would generally just be not as appealing without the art on them. We we would see additionally, maybe um, some balconies or terraces overlooking these alleyways, but really we want those to more face the street area. Muse are the residential alleyways, and we have really taken a look at the alleyways both in Lacey Track, that northwest corner of Gilbert and Elliott, as well as the area just east of Gilbert Road, because these areas have in the past been subject to illegal dumping. They are areas, though, that are utilized by the residents for garage access and for secondary dwelling units and for at home offices. And so we wanted these pathways to be a clean and safe environment that both can act, be utilized for both vehicular traffic. So for those who have their garages in the back, but also a place that would be safe and comfortable for pedestrians to walk through. In order to do that, we would envision some kind of specialty paving, allowing for art along, the fences or art within this area. I did want to note that we will be removing from the axonometric the lighting that's shown in here, because that lighting is not on town-owned property. So that will certainly be an area we will need to work with the neighborhood on at a later date if these alleyways are able to be updated. Um, this is an area where the solid waste would not be collected. Again, this is really meant to be an area for people to access their homes and an area where people could feel safe walking through as a secondary area to access houses. So with that, we'll move into Congregate. Congregate is our public spaces. We want these public spaces to be joyful. And so we have incorporated them and their design into the Heritage District Design Guidelines. Again, utilizing the redevelopment plan as our guide, and of course, feedback that we've received over the last 5 years from the Heritage District Redevelopment Plan outreach, and of course, neighborhood meetings we've had. So again, you'll see this section opens with an introduction and a map of the various park spaces we'll be talking through. Water Tower is our Water Tower Plaza. We don't anticipate this area changing, but we wanted to just make some notes that would be critical to anyone who may develop around it. So we would encourage those who develop near the Water Tower Plaza to have any kind of retractable walls that face the park, balconies face the park, or decks facing the park, really encouraging that visual connection to this critical historical aspect of our community. We also would continue to not encourage bicycle or micromobility in this area because there are grade changes, and we want to make sure that we are putting safety first here. But this is an area that we can anticipate continuing to see it active and activated. For example, we could see this area potentially having, a small neighborhood, well, a small library where people can check out a book and read it in the park there, where families can continue to bring their children to the splash pad. So we'd see that kind of active use of Water Tower Plaza. The Paseo is a north-south connection. This is pedestrian and bicycle only, and it's really meant to be intuitive. So we like to say it's like following the yellow brick road, although we don't anticipating it actually being a yellow brick road. Um, but it'd be something that would have, a specialty paving, wayfinding, unique lighting, banners on the poles, um, signage to help you get through the district. And this is your safe path if you're 9 or 90. It would have, shaded rest areas, areas for you to refill your water bottles. Those type of things would all be along this path. And then there are also spaces that we can activate. So, this is an area where we could have a nighttime market and have additional retail, or it just continues to be another area that we can um, utilize as a public open space. Veterans Park is located in the Lacey Track neighborhood. It's an urban neighborhood park, providing for a multi-generational experience for the residents. In this, we tried to keep all of the elements that are currently part of Lacey Track. So, we kept the playground structures and such, but thought, to keep the outdoor grills and Ramada and, have Ramada space, continue to have the surrounding on-street parking, which is critical to the neighborhood. We wanted this to really have kind of that comfortable seating and place where families gather because this is their neighborhood park. And then in addition to that, we have a building that has been incorporated here. There's no current plan for that building, but we said if there ever was a building, particularly one that could bring public restrooms, we would want it to be a 1 or 2 story structure preferred, and not the full 55-foot height that is allowed within Village Center zoning along Gilbert Road. It is important to note that this is currently zoned as a neighborhood park. The Commons is an urban open space located north of Powerline Trail and west of Gilbert Road. This will be part of a larger development, but it's really meant to be an area that has flexible seating. It will have a splash pad or water like feature that can be turned on and off, really to provide, ultimately a myriad of activities that could happen in this park. We also want it to draw in people from Gilbert Road and for them to be able to utilize and access this park as an open space and open space amenity within the Heritage District. We would see this having, specialty nighttime lighting to make it a comfortable space for the public in the evening time. And also to have shading, whether it's a shade structure or tree during the daytime. Legacy Park is located just east of Gilbert Road and south of Page. This park also has not been built. It is in the redevelopment plan and in the capital improvement projects for about 10 plus years before it's built. But we're trying to imagine, as this area east of Gilbert Road continues to build out, what amenities are available for the individuals who live downtown. Again, it's an urban classical park space with a central, feature, whether that's a water feature or a fountain or some type of sculpture, something that would have, built-in seating and buffer from the street and parking. We've considered potentially having the option for a small dog run or dog park with low fencing in a portion of this. This would also have passive recreation or program recreation. So you could see neighbors potentially doing yoga or Tai Chi in the park at certain hours. The living room plaza is adjacent to the water tower plaza. So as the area continues to build out in downtown where the park and ride is currently located, that is currently used as not only the park and ride, but it's used as an event space on the weekend. So once that builds out, we want to ensure that we continue to have spaces for things like our farmers market. And so this environment becomes kind of that open, the predominant hardscape, essentially, or open space for large gatherings. It's a place where we can have our downtown concert series, a place where there's, some covered space for that live music or entertainment. We would see the street side areas being areas where there could be mobile retailers, whether they are in trucks or have some kind of a retail cart. We would see this area also having nighttime lighting, because we would like to be able to activate it at night, and the electrical needed for that lighting. And ultimately, this is really meant to be, a playful space. So on the previous page, you see there's some, playful interactive furniture, and we could see, being able to organize performers at different times of day, maybe even have, a small visitor kiosk. The Western Trail Canal runs east and west, and this really connects the Heritage District to the other parts of Gilbert. It is also a multi-use path, and we would like to continue ensuring that this area is built out very similar to the way it is today, where it has, the some of the trees and shading, that those shaded rest stops. We'd want to have, water water stations where people can, um, fill up their water bottles, um, and really just kind of have, that walkable environment. We are talking to SRP about potentially doing some art wraps on the power poles, because there are the large power poles around here. So how do we continue to beautify the area? And we're also talking to SRP about adding a water oriented environment similar to a small canal along um, Power Line Trail and the Western Canal. So with that, we move into the dwell section, and this is our neighborhoods. And neighborhoods are so incredibly critical to the health of a downtown environment. And so we wanted to ensure that we were able to help define the form and character of those neighborhoods and ensure that they remain as this area continues to grow. So here is the map of the area. You'll see that there are 4 different neighborhood types. Lacey Tract is the area north on the northwest portion of Gilbert and Elliott, and this was developed in the early 1900s. It's really an area with bungalow type homes, so we would consider, that this architecture in this area would continue to be that bungalow, farmhouse, cottage, missioner arts, um, those type of architecture that's really reminiscent of the original plat. We would encourage, single story to match that architectural vernacular, front door visible from the street. You'd have, again, the front porches, courtyards, or stoops in the area. Um, And really just, we want this to continue to be an architecturally important portion of our community in downtown. Greenhaw Place is a mid-century modern ranch-style neighborhood. So these are larger lots, and these have very large green front lawns and mature trees, and their garages are attached, and oftentimes they have carports as well. So this is a little bit different than Lacey Tract, where many people have their garages accessible from the alleyway. Greenhaw, because it is mid-century modern, we would imagine that type of architecture or ranch style architecture, and not contemporary architecture in this area. 1- and 2-story homes are encouraged. Again, the front porches and covered entries are required in this area. And we really are, again, trying to just ensure that the historical vernacular of the time is addressed so that we don't lose those really integral neighborhoods for the Heritage District. The mixed environment, we had shown you, these are those active streets. It's really, and this is zoned for multifamily. So we see this being, neighborhood of stylized apartments, condominiums, townhomes. Right now there are a number of single family homes in the area, but we know that there are individuals who are buying lots and starting to really move more towards that multifamily. And so again, this is an area where you'd have your balconies and terraces facing the street, that really walkable, shaded street canopy, something that is just really, feels like a historic neighborhood. Complex are neighborhoods located within the Heritage District that were constructed as a uniform neighborhood. So these could be apartment buildings or townhomes, or in some cases, there is one on the upper northeast portion of the district that was actually developed as a single family uniform neighborhood. We would like these to remain as they are. So any changes to the existing environment, um, to better interface with streetscape is always encouraged, but any changes to the aesthetics would have to be approved by the Redevelopment Commission, who is the governing board that oversees the design in the Heritage District and ultimately utilizes these design guidelines to ensure that we are meeting the look and feel and intent of our downtown. And so with that, we wrap it up with the create section, and this is really the appendix. So this is everything from art, arcades and windows, the colors and materials that are appropriate for the Heritage District, the various landscaping that is approved. This will also have a list of all of the street furniture that is currently in our Gilbert right-of-way. And then it does have a quick note on signage. However, we really wanted individuals to refer to our land development code for sign regulations, so that we didn't have sign regulations in 2 different locations within town documents. Excuse me. And then finally, there are a number of terms. So any of the terms that are in the document that are not understood by anyone reading this, we've tried to define all of those terms here. So that really outlines the Heritage District Design Guidelines. We were able to meet with our Redevelopment Commission to go through a study session, meaning it's an informal opportunity for them to review the guidelines and provide feedback. And we will be updating the next round of design guidelines with their feedback. And at this time, we are really looking to the public to provide any input on the guidelines as they stand today, so that we can get that incorporated and make sure that we're addressing all of the critical areas. so that the Heritage District remains the great place that it is today and into the future. It really remains not only our community living room where we want to, gather and spend time with our family and friends, but also, continues to be our historical and um, cultural center of our community. So I appreciate you spending the time today listening to the design guidelines, and I hope that you will provide feedback on those design guidelines. My phone number and my email are also listed on the Heritage District Design Guidelines page, and I encourage anyone who has questions to please feel free to reach out. Thank you so much.